The 9/11 attacks, terrorist attacks in American soil have brought to an abrupt end the illusions about the end of history. And in the past 15 or so years in the Middle East, we've seen unravelings and fluctuations of the highest order. We've seen foreign interventions, people's uprisings. We've seen implosion of Syria. We've seen the tragedy of Libya. We've seen transformation of Turkey. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the stage Ambassador Cameron Munter. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the stage Vitaly Naumkin of Moscow. Why on earth did you do it? And what went wrong?
Is that America went into Iraq at a time of its highest self-perception as the unilateral and unipolar power. And there was a belief among many people, the so-called neoconservatives in the government of the United States, that they could remake the structure of the Middle East. That is to redesign the chessboard.
The United States probably has learned lessons from this experience of three great dire mistakes that were made. First, destroying, decommissioning the whole army, and part of it went to ISIS later on, the Sunni officers, then destroying the bureaucratic, dissolving this bureaucratic apparatus of this state, which is probably could have been one of the wealthiest, if not the wealthiest state in the Middle East.
I'm going to now ask you, Vitaly, why did you guys go into Syria?
It was a different story. We had nothing to do with democracy in Syria, and we had nothing to do with the removal of Mr. Assad.
It makes sense in the sense that I think that there was an effort by the Russian Federation to bolster the stability of the country. I think this comes down to the debate about whether or not there is stability or whether or not there is to be a more democratic structure.
Quick yes or no answer. If you had to bet today, in 3 years from now, will Assad be the president of Syria? Yes or
no? Why exactly 3 years? Probably even 4, because...
Is Assad going to be president of Syria?
Can I give you 4 words?
Yeah, 4 words.
I have no idea.
Good. Is this defeat or deterritorialization of ISIS, is that going to bring about a significant change when it comes to extremist threat?
We still have people who are willing to go to Turkey and then to Syria, to live there and to fight, to help ISIS. There are sympathizers everywhere in the world. The ISIS is turning to the strategy of sleeping cells, of dissolving among the tribes, and of building more franchises all over the world. For instance, in the Mindanao in the Philippines, recently we found out that there were some Chechens, they have been sent terrorists from ISIS to Mindanao, to the Philippines. What to do there?
No, I very much agree that the war is not at all over. If you see this strictly as a military operation, it's a success. But if you look at it as the way that, say, Clausewitz or someone would look at a question, you need to have a political goal, and the political goal would be to eliminate the basis under which ISIS gains international support. And that is still something that the countries, Europe, Russia, America, other countries are trying to struggle with. To be quite open with you, I'm a supporter of the deal. The deal was an attempt to try to get the short-term limits on the nuclear capacity of Iran in order to see whether during the time, the 15 years that we might see, that there might be developments bringing Iran into the mainstream of international institutions.
That it's not a challenge, it's a disaster if it's going to collapse. And it will be a very significant, stroke, or I would say danger also, and threat to the ongoing cooperation within the United Nations, P5+1 and all other formats.
Should we be afraid, or should we be at guard about a potential another massive wave of refugees in the next couple of years?
For sure, it's yes. Short answer, because the people will continue seeking refuge in Europe, mainly for economic reasons. They're running not necessarily from armed conflicts, but from poverty, from different grievances.
This notion of migration is not just a question for people who are thinking about the Middle East. This is a question that is much bigger than just the particular spark of what we saw in 2015. What about expectations of people in sub-Saharan Africa? What about expectations of people in Western Asia? The one problem we see, of course, is that VUC, ever acting as the non-aligned movement, didn't wear the proper suit, right? We are aligned, VUC is not, but the non-aligned movement still lives.
Thank you guys very much. It was a pleasure.